Hi everyone, welcome back to another video review. I am popping these things out back to back for you guys because I need to catch up with all the games that came out this past spring so that now that we're moving into the fall, I can focus on those games wholeheartedly with this new system that I have going on my channel. And today we're reviewing Ratchet Clank Rift Apart, which if you missed, I did a full playthrough of it, so you can check that out as well. I had a lot of fun playing this game. It was a blast. PlayStation is just stepping it up with these amazing cartoony 3D platformers, kicking it off with Astro's Playroom, which was packed in with the PS5. I also reviewed that, and Sackboy Big Adventure, which I actually did not play. And now we have Ratchet Clank Rift Apart, which is amazing. PlayStation 5 players were ready to get their hands on this because the 2016 Ratchet & Clank was super fun, super successful. Everything that they showed about this game in trailers and screenshot was absolutely breathtaking, and this game seemed to be taking advantage of the PS5 technology. And then what got PlayStation players even more hype is seeing how rifts are used to traverse between dimensions, and that we would get a new female Lombax. Insane. And I have to say that Ratchet Clank Rift Apart definitely lived up to the hype and is an absolute joy to play. I highly recommend it off the bat. So what's going on in this game is Clank is a freaking pal. He got Ratchet a Dimensionator so that he can go see if other Lombaxes exist. But then of course, Dr. Nefarious had to come and press way too many buttons and things went chaotic. Dimensions started to form all over the place, and Ratchet wound up in this dimension with another Nefarious with another Lombax, who we know as Rivet. And the Nefarious in Rivet's dimension has already taken over and dominated. Rivet and all of the other new characters introduced are so cool, and they're written so well. The story and the animations gave me so many Pixar vibes, which is a huge compliment for a video game. This game had a handful of moments that made me laugh or chuckle, and then a handful of moments that were so heartfelt. The only complaint that I have about the story is that it is a bit predictable, but that did not in any way, shape, or form stop me from loving the characters and this story. I had a blast getting to know these new characters that are dimensional counterparts to characters we've previously been introduced to in other Ratchet & Clank games. But keep in mind that you don't need to have played those games to enjoy these characters or this story. It's fun no matter what. The only other complaint besides the story being very predictable is I felt like they could have gone a little deeper with the dimensional chaos, but I guess that they couldn't make it too convoluted for children. The only dimensional counterpart that I will be discussing in this spoiler-free review, as they tend to be, is Rivet, and that's because she's been all over the marketing, and also she is a playable character in this game. In this game, you're going to switch between playing as Rivet and Ratchet depending on what point of the story you're in and what planet you're on. At first, I was a little bothered that Ratchet and Rivet played the same, but because this is a third-person shooter 3D platformer, there isn't much that they can do to make these characters feel different in terms of combat, unless you give them character-exclusive weapons. But the main charm of this game's combat is to switch between all of these quirky weapons, so it kind of would have been annoying to have to wait to play as Rivet to play with a specific weapon. And this approach is especially helpful because all of your upgrades to a weapon will carry over to both characters. Had they given Ratchet and Rivet character-exclusive weapons, then I would have had to be more cognizant of which weapons to level up per character, which would have been really annoying. So the pros outweigh the cons, I think. So let's talk about the combat and the guns. Activating the weapon wheel to switch between different guns is as seamless as it has been in previous games. The guns in Ratchet & Clank are so quirky, and they're up there with some of the best guns in video games, along with like Doom's BFG or the Lancer in Gears of War. I absolutely adore the new Topiary Sprinkler, which is a weapon that freezes enemies and turns them into bushes. The Topiary Sprinkler is great for crowd control, but most importantly, it just shows how much detail and time went into animating every single enemy into a bush. There's so many great new weapons, and you even get some old weapons like the Gloves of Doom. But I kind of missed the Groovatron. Ratchet & Clank as a series continues to expand on their arsenal of some of the best and most satisfying guns in video games. And the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers absolutely add to the satisfaction of using these wonderful quirky guns. After seeing all the trailers and gameplay, I was wholly convinced that we were going to be using the rifts to travel in between dimensions, but instead we're stuck in the same dimension the whole time, which was kind of a bummer. The rifts are simply transporting you from one location on a map to another location on the same map. You're not traveling through dimensions, but I also understand why they didn't do it. It's probably really hard to pull something like that off. Instead, these rifts are baked into the gameplay where you're using them to travel across gaps or run away from an enemy horde. So the rifts aren't a dimension hopping device, but I think it's pretty cool that it's used for traversing and for combat. I found it extremely satisfying to like ride a rail and then jump, and right before you're about to fall to your death, you like suck yourself into a rift. It's pretty cool. And it was pretty seamless to use rifts to get a combat vantage point. So let's say I was fighting a group of enemies on the ground and then there's a rift on a platform above me. I would just go to that rift and then get a vantage point above them. Pew 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 pew. I still like the way that they implemented the rifts in this game, but I feel like it was a bit of a missed opportunity to have some cool world bending mechanics. Regardless, the level of detail that you can see within a rift before you even enter it is astounding. Like before you even enter that world, you can see so much of it. It's kind of a technical advantage that I think a game like The Medium would have benefited from. And look, the trailer did not lie to you. This game is absolutely breathtaking and each planet has their own vibe. For example, Torrent 4 is a big junk heap with a giant robot at the center, versus Savali, which is a huge open land with hot springs and cool bros. There's even a giant robot crab that's just like circling around the center of that planet. It's really cool. Each planet is filled with so many vibrant colors and detailed graphics that even the prologue of the game felt like a bit of a PS5 flex. Going through each planet once was very enjoyable, but then backtracking to pick up collectibles was a pain in the butt. You would think that because most of the collectibles are marked on the map, I say most for a reason, for some reason the bears aren't, and I don't understand why. Maybe because they're on the main path, but still, you could have marked them. You know what I mean? You did it for the rest of them, why not? But you would think that because most of the collectibles are marked on the map, that you would be able to backtrack pretty seamlessly. No. When you look at the map in your menu, each planet seems pretty open, but most of them are actually very linear and there's specific ways to travel through them. One of the most linear planets is Blizzard Prime with these crystals that are very annoying to make it from point A to point B. It's very frustrating. But once again, this is completely optional if you're a completionist like me, if you're going for the collectibles. I just feel like it would have been better if every single collectible was marked and that they were easier to get to. Or maybe just give me an option to fast travel back to my ship. So Ratchet & Clank games have collectathon elements to them, although it's not completely a collectathon like a game like Spyro. So you gather raritanium and gold bolts as you're going through the game, but there's also a handful of side quests. These side quests are more like collectathons than the main game because you're basically helping someone pick up X item. And they really offer nothing more than getting to know the dwellers of the planet that you're exploring. Thankfully, there aren't so many side quests, so going for the platinum didn't feel too repetitive. Even though there weren't that many side quests, some of them were still annoying because it would be like, get 10 of this item, and then I would go to get the items, and some of these items were unattainable and I couldn't figure out why, so then I spent so much time either trying to figure it out or just moving on to one that I could pick up. All to find out that once I pick up 10, I would unlock an ability that allowed me to collect more of them. In my opinion, it's a side quest. Just give me all of the abilities that I need to collect all of the items from the beginning so that you're not wasting my time and I'm not trying to figure out how to get a collectible that I actually am not ready to pick up yet. You know what I mean? Even when it comes to backtracking the planets, there's certain items that aren't obtainable until you complete the game. So don't be like me and try and get every single thing on a planet and get all the check marks, 2 out of 2, 3 out of 3. Don't do that because you will not be able to get everything anyway until the end of the game. So play naturally and then clean up if you want to. That's my advice. I feel like they could have changed that, but you know, they didn't, so it's not the worst thing. And once again, optional. One of the cooler optional activities though that I do want to talk about is the battle arena in Skartsu Debris Field. It's a bar where every type of creature from every planet within the dimension goes to hang out and wind down. The battle arena is full of challenges that are voiced over by the overzealous Invader Zim, Zircon Jr. And these challenges are super fun and not frustrating at all. Most of the time, challenge modes are pretty annoying, but this one is pretty chill. Like, they give you challenges to fight with a specific weapon only, which is very different from the core gameplay where you're switching in between weapons. Or they'll offer you a horde mode where you get different waves of enemies coming at you and you fight them however you please within a certain amount of time. There's also little sequences with a character called Glitch, who is a super kawaii little spider robot that helps you get rid of computer viruses. In these little sequences, you literally just shoot up and explode blobs of viruses, and it's actually fun. And through doing all of these side activities, the main activities, collecting raritanium and gold bolts, you'll be getting a handful of unlockable items. You'll be unlocking weapons, upgrades, different armor sets, a variety of skins for your character, weapons, bolts, and ship. You can get cheats like infinite ammo, and even quirky effects like having confetti spread all over the place after you kill something. This made completing everything very rewarding because besides that beautiful, shiny platinum trophy, it's really fun to swap in between the different skins and effects. You can even make Ratchet and Rivet's head really big and their body small. It's adorable. So I talk about side and optional activities a lot in my reviews, not only because I'm a completionist, but certain games it kind of adds to the game or takes away from the game. In a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it was overbearing, unnecessary, it was way too much and felt like padding. In a game like Ratchet and Clank, it actually feels supplemental. It adds to the game, especially considering this game is very short. It's just too bad that backtracking and exploring wasn't as fun as I hoped it would be. But I am thankful that there was nothing too repetitive and that the game did not overstay its welcome. Even in the sequences of the game where you play as Clank, all of the puzzles are completely skippable. So if you're not into them or they don't appeal to you as much as they maybe appealed to me, then you can absolutely skip them. I will admit though that I enjoyed the Clank sequences in previous Ratchet and Clank games more than this one, but I didn't skip any of them because they were still pretty cool. So do I think you should play Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart if you can get your hands on a PS5, which I hope all of you do? I would say yes. I think this game is for everyone. Kids, adults, casual gamers, hardcore gamers, doesn't matter. This game is an absolute blast unless you're one of those people who only plays super gritty, dark games. I will say though that playing on normal is way easier than I thought, and I think more recently Insomniac did talk about why. They really want to make their games more accessible, which is amazing, but I did feel like normal was easy mode. So if you really want a challenge, I would recommend playing on hard mode to get a more balanced experience. Or you can go ahead and hand that controller to a child and drop it down to easy, and I'm sure that child will have a great time. This game is just so cute and fun, so if you like fun, go play Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you liked it. As always, please let me know your opinions on my reviews and on the game in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys more than you know. Even if you're saying mean things, I still want to hear it. But the most important thing, as always, is that you guys take care of yourselves.